Hello and welcome to the Tottenham America channel. Now, earlier in the summer, around mid-July, we had released a video on Fabio Paratici and how he could really affect Tottenham's doing and business in the transfer window and how he would improve the club as a whole. And we've gotten to the end of the transfer window. The deadline was about almost a week ago from today, Monday, September 6th. So in this video, I'm just gonna kind of take a look back at what Fabio Paratici has done for the club and how he's fulfilled his expectations that he was assigned at the beginning of the summer, and basically how he could prove to be Tottenham's best signing of 2021. So I've kind of got like three different parts of this video kind of set up. So first up is like those expectations that we expected from Fabio Paratici that we kind of set for him when he was hired by the club in June from Juventus. Then we'll go over the incomings and see how he's made his mark on those signings. We'll also go over the outgoings, and we'll look at that. And we'll also look at a couple of the transfer rumors that we had to see how he put his mark on the transfer business that we had. So first off, just some expectations that we knew. Obviously, he was appointed in June 2021, just before the transfer window opened. He was appointed directly from Juventus, basically, after almost like 8 or 9 years at the Italian club. Daniel Levy had some expectations for him and some set points. Basically, what he was assigned to do is take over all football-related roles from Daniel Levy, because I think as he saw that he had to sack Mourinho right after he sacked Pochettino, I think that's where he realized that he just wasn't fit for the football side of transfers. He knew that he needed to get someone in, and by bringing Fabio Paratici in, he really knew the side of things and give it to someone who really knew how to manage a football club. So kind of the four main points were that he was expected to freshen up the squad a lot with not that high of a transfer fee, implement basically his own positive play styles. I know he's more on the transfer side, but he is technically the director of football, so he does kind of have an influence on the players and Nuno, and he does get to, get his own say in all of this. I think, like, if you see on Twitter, whenever something is reported about players having a chat, it's always Fabio Paratici and Nuno Espirito Santo. It's just never just Nuno. So I think that shows that Fabio kind of has a double role in both managing the squad like Nuno and the play style, and also on the transfer side of things. His third expectation was to get rid of some of the deadwood. Now, in my opinion, deadwood basically means players who are taking up a large chunk of the wage bill. Or they might not be taking a large chunk, but normally they're taking up a good amount of the wage bill, but they're not really living up to that. They're not affecting the matches as much as they should be. They're not getting as much game time. They basically become pretty useless over their time at the club. And usually, in most cases, they're older. So, they're above the age of 30, 31 years old, and they're starting to slow down. So one of our problems that we've had in the last 2 years is our inability to get rid of that deadwood and not be able to shift them away. Obviously, we had that great team in 2016-17 season, but the only way we would have continued fighting for the Premier League title is if we reinvested those seasons. Unfortunately, we didn't, and now we're feeling the effects of it now. And last one was just to enforce like younger targets transfer-wise, because as we know, Spurs and Daniel Levy in particular put a high importance on youth scouting and youth finding and finding the next gem. So, and I think that's part of the biggest reason why Fabio Paratici was hired, was to really be able to find these new upcoming gems, and that's what he did. As we go into the incoming section, and we'll look at the players that Fabio Paratici brought in and see how he put his mark on them. So we're going to start with Spanish winger Bryan Gil. He's 20 years of age, so obviously that young mark is there. He's a very exciting player. He's very pacey. He's Messi-like almost. and he was bought from Sevilla for about 25 million. So I didn't know anything about this kid, and I think he was mainly unknown to a lot of the world. So this was great work by Paratici to really scout out one of the probably best wing talents that nobody had really heard of. Next up, Pape Matar Sarr from Senegal. He, again, is 18 years of age, so he fulfills that young quota. He's a very solid and versatile midfielder, which means he can play as a 6, an 8, a box-to-box, or a 10 attacking midfielder. He was loaned back to Metz to continue gaining his experience, which is a very good move. But I think the only reason we bought him this year and not the next year is just to secure the services, because I think Paratici and Levy both knew that eventually, we'd get someone else would get them. Someone else would get Pape Matar Sarr ahead of us. So to secure that his services before anyone else, especially when he was he was being targeted by a couple of top tier clubs. This was an excellent signing by Paratici, an excellent identification, and this next year in Metz is only going to do him the world of good for Sarr. Next up, deadline day transfer, Emerson Royal from Brazil, 22 years of age, so again, not as young as Brian Keehl and Pape Matar Sarr, but this Emerson Royal is more older, so he's got more experience, and he could almost become more of a starter for us. A very attacking-minded right back, and he was actually really highly treasured by Barca. La Liga has a rule where you have to put a release clause on every player, and Barcelona's release clause on Emerson Royal was actually 300 million euros, which, I mean, that just kind of shows they really, really wanted him, but I think Levy and Paratici both saw Barcelona's transfer situation and the financial situation, and it was the perfect opportunity to swoop in and get, even if it was, 30 million, so maybe a bit pricey, but still, I think he's going to be a great signing and a great find by Fabio Paratici. Next up, Italian goalkeeper Pierre Luigi Golini. He's a young but experienced goalkeeper. He has a regular selection for the Italian national team. He is 26 years old, so a little bit older, but again, in goalkeeping years and in keeper years, that's actually pretty young in terms of goalkeeping years. You really don't become a solidified starter until, 27, 28, unless you're like one of the few exceptions, like, Donnarumma and those kinds of guys. Fabio Paratici did get him on a season-long loan with an option to buy for about 15 million euros, which is a really good deal, and he's a very exciting young player. And again, he was sought out by a lot of top clubs in Europe, and I think it's just been a great signing. And last up, and probably the best signing that Fabio Paratici made this transfer window, Argentina's Christian Romero. He's an extremely young CB center back, only 23 years of age. He's a Copa America winner already with fellow teammate Giovanni Lo Celso, and he helped Atalanta to a third-placed finish, their highest finish in a long time, in the 2020-2021 Serie A season. He was also the 2020-2021 Serie A Defender of the Year and was, again, sought out by a lot of top clubs, including Barcelona. And he was actually got basically the Leo Messi stamp of approval. He really wanted him at Barcelona. And as soon as he saw that Spurs had swooped in and gotten Christian Romero, I think that was really the final straw, according to some sources, for Leo Messi. And he just left right after that. So that's a huge signing. He is a loan with an obligation to buy for 55 million euros. This is just due to Italy FA transfer rules, which is a player can't move more than one time in a transfer window. So basically, he was on loan at Atalanta. So Atalanta bought him from Juventus, and then Tottenham bought him from Atalanta, but Tottenham couldn't buy him outright based on the rules, so we just loaned him until January, when we'll have to make it a permanent move for 55 million euros. But in conclusion, Paratici really fulfilled that young quota our oldest signing was actually a 26-year-old in Pierre Luigi Golini. All the other signings were under 23. He found and signed bright talent, and he was also the first to find and first to offer for most, which basically hired our chances to complete the signing. Now we're going to move on to the outgoings that Spurs completed this season. We're going to so as a starter, Welshman Gareth Bale and Brazilian Carlos Vinicius both left after the conclusion of their loans, but nonetheless that definitely freed up our wage bill, which I will basically go over at the end of this video. Next one, Eric Lamela, Argentinian. He has been at Tottenham Hotspur for 8 or more years. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's a little over 8, maybe 9 or 10 years. But he was here for 8+ years, 29 years of age, and very, very inconsistent. He was a great player, lots of passion, just incredibly inconsistent, absolutely overloaded with injuries. Got more yellow cards in his time at Spurs than he did league goals. He was actually excellently included in the deal for Heel, which is basically, we're basically replacing Eric Lamela perfectly with Heel. One winger out and one winger in. So, and that's another overseas player spot freed, which was immediately taken up by Heel. Belgian Toby Alderweireld, 32 years of age, and obviously aging, at Spurs for almost 6 years since he joined from Atletico Madrid. Unnecessarily high wages, really, from Toby Alderweireld. Wasn't able to affect games a lot. So he was sold to Qatar club Al Duhail for around 5 million euros. Obviously not the best price that we could have gotten for him, but I think the emphasis on this was just get him out. You know, just free up another spot in the squad. Just get him out no matter what, because that's a problem we've had a lot. Levy's tried to negotiate too much on the deals, and we just end up, the deals end up breaking down, and the players just stay at the club for another year. Next up, Englishman Joe Hart. He was only actually at the Spurs for 1 year, but nonetheless taking up wages. Very experienced player, but not exactly reliable. We did make a profit on him. He was sold to Celtic for 1 million euros to free space basically for Pierre Luigi Golini, who's a much more solid goalkeeper. And we did make a 1 million euro profit, which is always good. Moussa Sissoko, 32 years of age. He was at Spurs for 5 years. He was really not able to affect matches towards the end of the 2020-2021 season in the Premier League. And he was sold to Watford for about 5 million euros. Again, not exactly the best fee, but I think it was just get him out of the club. He was sold really to make space for Pape Matar Sarr. Serge Aurier was actually released on deadline day after a lot of deals with him just broke down throughout the transfer window. I think that was the last thing for Paratici. He just wanted to get him out. I don't think you would have seen this with Tottenham in the past. I don't think you would have seen, a player's contract actually be terminated. But, here we are, and Fabio Paratici has just terminated, by mutual consent, terminated Serge Aurier's contract, which I think what both parties wanted. Serge Aurier clearly wanted a new club, and Spurs and Fabio Paratici, thought he was deadwood, not the most consistent, and he freed space for Emerson Royale, which is always good. Gazzaniga and Rose were both released at the beginning of the transfer window, after they were released as their contract expired, so no contract renewal. This one wasn't affected by Paratici as much because his work really started in July, and they left, I think, a little bit before that. Next up, Juan Foyth. He was sold as part of the loan-to-buy offer with Villarreal. Again, not really affected by Paratici, but just one to add in our outgoings list. And lastly, the last one is Cameron Carter-Vickers, who was loaned out to Celtic. This was under Paratici, and this also frees up a good amount on our wage bill. So, really, the average age of our incomings was 21 years old. and 9 months, which is 8 years younger than the average age of our outgoings, which was 29 years and 9 months. So, Paratici has really had a great effect on our transfer window, really getting all of those older, unnecessary players out of the club, and bringing in new, young, experienced players. Our oldest player now is actually Hugo Lloris, I believe he's 34 years old, but the thing is, he's trustable. He's very reliable. 3 clean sheets already this Premier League season, one of them coming against Manchester City. He's faced the most shots in the Premier League, so he's a class keeper, and he's not considered part of that dead wood section because of how good he is, how consistent he is. We're going to go on to the wages section I was talking about now. So, we're going to first look at the outgoings and see how many wages per week and per month we've saved, per month, per week, and per year we've saved. So, the highest earner of our outgoings was Gareth Bale, obviously. He's actually on like something crazy like 600K per week at Real Madrid, but we were able to strike a deal on his loan where we only paid under 300K, 240,000 pounds per week, which is still extremely high for Gareth Bale. Second up was Toby Alderweireld, 120,000 pounds per week. Lamela next at 100,000 pounds per week. Sissoko at 95,000 pounds per week. Aurier at 70,000 pounds per week. Rose at 60,000 pounds per week. Carlos Vinicius and Paulo Gazzaniga were both at 30,000 pounds per week. Foyth also was at 30,000 pounds per week. Joe Hart was at 27,500 pounds per week. And Carter Vickers was last at 20,000 pounds per week. This all adds up to 822,000 pounds per week, which is a lot of money saved. That's 40 million pounds per year, which is huge. That's a lot of money saved. And even better is when you hear the incoming wage. So there's 5 players. Brian Heel is on 42.3 thousand pounds per week, which is 2.2 million pounds per year. Pape Matar Sarr's wages are mainly covered by Mets, and really there's been no report on what he's getting paid at Spurs. Emerson Royale's wages are around 42,000 pounds per week, which is 2.2 million pounds per year. Pierre Luigi Golini's wages are 30,000 pounds per week, which is around 1.6 million pounds per year. And Romero is the highest earner with 48,000 pounds per week, which is 2.5 million pounds per year. But the craziest thing is, this only adds up to around 7.5 million pounds per year, which is, we have saved 32 million, almost 32, a little over actually, 32.5 million pounds every year by offloading all of these players, which is absolutely huge for the club. And it gives us space to bring in more players and invest more into the team. And this is exactly what we needed from Paratici, to start offloading those players that just take up too much of the wage bill. Something that we haven't been able to do for so long with Daniel Levy at the helm of the football-related stuff. But with him gone and Fabio Paratici taking his place in the football-related roles, we have cleared out so many players that we really didn't need, and we've gotten so much more money. And that money can be used to buy some top-class players, scout young players, top-class players, get those big wages that we can bring in world-class players eventually. Obviously none right now because no one really wants to play in the UEFA Europa Conference League, but in the future, if we keep accelerating at this growth, Fabio Paratici will be our best signing in this summer window. Absolutely. I'm adamant on that. That Fabio Paratici is Tottenham's best signing this summer. That he is going to affect this club in so many different ways that it will be unbelievable. But that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the like button, help us get on our way to 500 subscribers, half of 1,000. We're about 90 away. We're on 410, so not too far away. Help us get there. But until next time, come on you Spurs!